your SUV might become illegal to drive in less than 2 months. New federal regulations are targeting specific vehicles that fail to meet 2026 safety and emission standards. Millions of SUV owners are about to discover their vehicles can no longer be registered, insured, or legally operated on public roads. And what automotive experts just revealed about which SUVs are on the banned list will leave you absolutely stunned. Here's what you need to know right now. One of these banned SUVs is currently the third best-selling vehicle in America. Another has been a family favorite for decades but contains a safety flaw that regulators finally decided is too dangerous to ignore. And there's a loophole that could save your SUV from being banned, but dealers aren't telling customers about it because it costs them money. Stay until the end because SUV number 1 on this list affects more owners than all the others combined, and most of them have no idea what's coming. SUV 7 2019-2021 Jeep Cherokee, the stalling engine crisis. Let's start with the SUV that's being targeted for one of the most dangerous mechanical failures in recent history. The 2019 to 2021 Jeep Cherokee, equipped with the 2.4-liter Tiger Shark engine, has a critical problem that's caused hundreds of accidents. The engine stalls without warning while driving at highway speeds. No check engine light, no advance warning, just sudden total power loss. Here's what's actually happening inside these engines. The valve train components fail prematurely, causing the engine to seize completely. One moment you're driving normally, the next moment your vehicle is coasting powerless in traffic. When your engine dies on the highway, you lose power steering and power brakes. Your vehicle becomes extremely difficult to control. And here's the terrifying part. These failures have caused multi-vehicle accidents, injuries, and several fatalities. The National Highway Traffic Safety Administration received over 1,400 complaints about this issue. Jeep issued multiple recalls, but the fixes haven't solved the problem completely. The failures occur most frequently in vehicles with 40,000 to 80,000 miles. That's well within the expected lifespan of a modern engine. Owners who purchase these Cherokees expecting typical Jeep durability are discovering their vehicles are ticking time bombs. But there's another complication that makes this even worse. Some owners report that dealerships performed recall repairs, but the engines failed again months later. The temporary fix doesn't address the fundamental design flaw in the Tiger Shark engine. The 2026 regulations include a provision that bans vehicles with unresolved safety defects that pose imminent hazards. The Cherokee's stalling issue falls directly into this category. But there's a complication for current owners. If you own one of these Cherokees, you have until December 2025 to either get the vehicle repaired with an approved fix or trade it in. After that date, registration renewals will be denied in most states. Your vehicle essentially becomes worthless overnight. And here's what dealers aren't telling people. If you're stuck paying out of pocket, you're facing a financial disaster. The resale value of affected Cherokees has already plummeted by 30 to 40%. Dealers know these vehicles are essentially ticking time bombs, so they're offering lowball trade-in values. A 2020 Cherokee that should be worth $22,000 is now getting trade-in offers of $13,000. That's a devastating loss for owners who finance these vehicles and still owe money on their loans. Owners feel trapped between expensive repairs and terrible trade-in offers. And here's the insurance issue that's making the situation even worse. Some insurance companies are increasing premiums on affected Cherokees or requiring proof of engine replacement before continuing coverage. The vehicle you purchased as reliable family transportation has become a financial liability you can't escape easily. SUV 6 2017-2019 Honda CR-V, the oil dilution disaster. Now let's talk about the SUV that shocked the automotive world with a problem that shouldn't exist in modern engines. The 2017 to 2019 Honda CR-V with the 1.5-liter turbocharged engine suffers from severe oil dilution. Gasoline leaks past the piston rings and mixes with the engine oil, eventually causing catastrophic engine failure. Here's how owners discover the problem. They check their oil level and find it's actually higher than when they last changed it. That sounds impossible, but it's gasoline contaminating the oil. The diluted oil loses its lubricating properties, causing premature engine wear and eventual failure. But there's more to this story that Honda initially tried to downplay. The oil dilution problem is significantly worse in cold weather climates. If you live in the northern United States or Canada and take frequent short trips, your CR-V is at highest risk. The engine doesn't reach full operating temperature on short trips, which prevents the fuel from evaporating out of the oil. The contamination builds up over time until the oil is more gasoline than lubricant. Honda issued recalls and software updates, but the problem persists in cold weather conditions. Owners in northern states report continued oil dilution even after recall repairs. One owner in Minnesota reported that after the recall fix, his oil level still increased by a full quart between oil changes. The gasoline smell from the oil was so strong that opening the oil cap released visible fumes. Over 800 complaints have been filed about this dangerous behavior. The sudden acceleration happens because the fuel-diluted oil changes the engine's compression characteristics. When you start the engine, it runs rougher and with higher RPMs than normal until it warms up. If you're in gear when this happens, the vehicle can jump forward violently. Current owners face a difficult choice. Honda extended warranties on affected vehicles, but the long-term reliability remains questionable. The ban takes effect in June 2026, giving owners about 18 months to decide their next move. And here's the financial impact. CR-V resale values have dropped significantly as buyers become aware of the oil dilution issues. A vehicle that should be worth $22,000 is now selling for $16,000 loss. That's a $6,000 loss directly attributed to this mechanical flaw. But there's an additional problem for owners trying to sell privately. Informed buyers are specifically asking about oil dilution and requesting oil analysis reports before purchase. If you can't prove your CR-V doesn't have oil dilution issues, buyers simply walk away. And proving your vehicle is fine requires expensive oil testing that most sellers don't want to pay for. SUV 5 2018-2020 Ford Ecosport, the substandard safety ratings. Here's the SUV being banned for failing to meet minimum safety standards that are becoming mandatory in 2026. The Ford Ecosport performed so poorly in crash tests that safety organizations recommended against purchasing it. Small overlap front crash tests showed the driver's space collapsing dangerously. The steering column moved toward the driver by over 5 inches during impacts. Here's what that means in a real accident. In a serious frontal collision, the steering wheel and column would likely crush the driver's chest and head. The chance of fatal injuries increases dramatically compared to properly designed vehicles. But Ford continued selling the EcoSport despite these known safety deficiencies. The vehicle was originally designed for markets outside North America, where safety standards are less stringent. When Ford decided to sell it in the United States, they made minimal modifications to meet basic regulatory requirements. The result was a vehicle that technically passed minimum standards but provided far less protection than consumers expect from modern SUVs. And here's the crash test result that sealed this vehicle's fate. The Insurance Institute for Highway Safety gave the EcoSport a poor rating, their lowest score, in the passenger side small overlap test. This means both the driver and passenger face serious injury risk. In the test footage, you can see the entire front corner of the vehicle crumbling inward, pushing the dashboard and steering column into the occupant space. The dummy's head makes hard contact with the dashboard because the airbag can't prevent the intrusion. The 2026 regulations require all vehicles to achieve at least acceptable ratings in all crash test categories. The EcoSport can't be modified to meet this standard without complete redesign. Ford discontinued the model in 2022, but thousands remain on the roads. Current owners are discovering their vehicles will become illegal to register after the new standards take effect. But there's a registration loophole some states are offering. If you agree to install additional safety equipment like advanced airbags and collision avoidance systems, some states will allow continued registration. However, this retrofit costs $4,000 to $6,000. Most EcoSports aren't worth enough to justify that expense. A 2019 EcoSport in good condition might be worth $10,000 to $12,000. Spending $5,000 on safety retrofits makes no financial sense, especially when the base vehicle still has structural weaknesses that can't be fixed. Some owners report insurance premiums increasing by 40 to 60% when their policies renewed. Others received letters stating their insurance company would not renew coverage at all. Finding alternative insurance for a vehicle with known safety deficiencies is extremely difficult and expensive. SUV for 2016-2018 Hyundai Tucson, the fire risk recall. Now we get to the SUV that's being banned because it keeps catching fire spontaneously. The 2016 to 2018 Hyundai Tucson has a critical engine defect that causes fires while the vehicle is parked and turned off. Over 150 vehicle fires have been reported, including several that spread to homes and garages. Here's what's causing these terrifying fires. Metal debris from manufacturing defects contaminates the engine. This debris causes premature wear and eventually leads to engine seizure. When the engine seizes while running, it can overheat and ignite. But the most frightening aspect? Some vehicles catch fire hours after being parked. The fire starts from residual heat in the already damaged engine combined with leaking fluids that ignite when they contact hot engine components. The fire can smolder for hours before erupting into flames. Families have lost their homes because their Tucson caught fire in the garage while they slept. The fire spread to the structure before anyone noticed. One family in Ohio lost their entire home when their 2017 Tucson caught fire at 3 a.m. The vehicle had been parked in the attached garage for 6 hours after normal driving. The fire spread through the garage into the house before smoke detectors woke the family. They escaped with their lives but lost everything they owned. Hyundai issued multiple recalls, but the fixes have proven inadequate. Fires continue to occur even in vehicles that received recall repairs. Imagine owning a vehicle you're afraid to park in your own garage. You have to leave it on the street or in a far corner of a parking lot, hoping it doesn't catch fire and damage someone else's property. The ban gives Hyundai until March 2026 to develop a solution that completely eliminates the fire risk. If no solution exists by then, affected Tucsons cannot be registered or legally operated. But here's the compensation issue causing controversy. Hyundai is offering buyback programs for some owners, but the compensation is based on current market value. Since news of the fire risk became widespread, Tucson values have plummeted. Owners are receiving $6,000 to $1 less than what their vehicles would be worth without the defect. A 2017 Tucson that should command $16,000 in the used market is being bought back for $9,000 to $11,000. Owners who finance their vehicles often still owe more than the buyback amount, and there's a lawsuit brewing. Class action attorneys are arguing that Hyundai should compensate owners based on pre-defect values plus additional damages for the fear and inconvenience caused by owning a vehicle that might catch fire. The lawsuit also seeks compensation for diminished home values. Some homeowners have seen their property values decrease because potential buyers discover a recalled fire-prone vehicle is parked on the property.
SUV3 2015-2020 diesel SUVs. The emissions scandal fallout. Here's the category of SUVs being targeted by new emissions enforcement that closes loopholes from previous regulations. Multiple manufacturers produced diesel SUVs between 2015 and 2020 that used illegal defeat devices to pass emissions tests while polluting far beyond legal limits during normal driving. The most notable offenders include certain Mercedes-Benz, BMW, and remaining Volkswagen diesel models. Here's how the defeat devices worked. The vehicle's computer detected when it was undergoing emissions testing and temporarily modified engine performance to produce lower emissions. During normal driving, the engine ran in a different mode that produced nitrogen oxide emissions up to 40 times the legal limit. The detection system looked for specific conditions that only occurred during official testing. Things like the front wheels turning while the rear wheels remain stationary, which happens on a dynamometer but never in real driving. When these conditions were detected, the engine switched to a clean mode that passed the test. The moment testing ended, the engine reverted to its normal high-emission mode. This isn't just about breaking rules, it's about public health. Excess nitrogen oxide emissions cause respiratory problems, heart disease, and premature death. Regulators estimate these vehicles contributed to thousands of preventable deaths. The 2026 regulations mandate that any vehicle found to have emissions-related fraud devices must be permanently removed from service. No exceptions, no grandfathering. Current owners are being offered buyback programs at fair market values. But there's a complication. Diesel SUVs were popular because of their fuel efficiency and torque. Owners who relied on these characteristics can't easily find equivalent replacement vehicles. A diesel BMW X5 could achieve 30 mph highway while offering 400 lb of torque. The gasoline equivalent gets 23 mph with less torque. Hybrid and electric alternatives cost $15,000 to $1,000 more than the buyback compensation. Gasoline models don't offer the same fuel economy. Electric models are too expensive for many diesel SUV owners. And here's the registration problem creating chaos. Some states are implementing the ban immediately for the worst offending models. Owners are receiving letters stating their registration won't be renewed at the next cycle. They have months, not years, to find replacement vehicles. California and several northeastern states have already begun denying registration renewals for the highest polluting diesel models. Owners receive notice 60 days before expiration that their vehicle no longer qualifies for registration. The used car market is being flooded with these diesel SUVs as owners desperately try to sell before the ban takes full effect. Prices are collapsing as supply overwhelms demand. A 2016 Mercedes diesel SUV that sold for $35,000 just 2 years ago is now struggling to fetch $22,000.
That's a 37% loss directly caused by the emissions scandal and pending ban.
SUV2 2017-2021 Nissan Rogue, the CVT transmission failures. Now let's talk about the SUV that's being banned because of one of the most problematic transmissions ever installed in a mass-market vehicle. The 2017-2021 Nissan Rogue, equipped with continuously variable transmissions, has catastrophic failure rates that exceed acceptable standards. Transmissions are failing at 60,000 to 80,000 miles, well before expected lifespan. Here's what owners experience. The transmission shudders, hesitates, overheats, and eventually fails completely. When it fails while driving, the vehicle loses power and coasts to a stop, often in dangerous situations. The failure progression is terrifying for drivers. First, you notice a slight shudder when accelerating. Over days or weeks, the shudder gets worse. Then the transmission starts slipping, causing the engine to rev without the vehicle accelerating proportionally. Finally, without warning, the transmission gives up completely. The vehicle loses all forward motion and coasts to a stop wherever you happen to be. Nissan extended warranties on some affected vehicles, but the extensions don't cover all owners and don't prevent the underlying problem. And here's the safety issue that triggered regulatory action. But there's another problem that makes this ban particularly harsh. Nissan doesn't have an adequate fix. Replacing the CVT with another CVT of the same design just resets the clock until the next failure. The fundamental design is flawed. The CVT design uses a belt system instead of traditional gears. The belt runs between two cone-shaped pulleys that change diameter to vary the gear ratio infinitely. In theory, this provides smooth, efficient power delivery. In practice, the belt wears prematurely and the transmission fluid overheats, causing catastrophic failure. Current owners face a terrible situation. Their transmissions will likely fail, costing $5,000 to replace. But even after replacement, the new transmission will probably fail again. And once the 2026 ban takes effect, the vehicles become impossible to register even with new transmissions. The resale market for these Rogues has completely collapsed. Dealers won't accept them as trade-ins at any reasonable value. Private buyers avoid them because everyone knows about the transmission problems. Some owners report that their 2018 Rogue, worth $15,000 before the ban announcement, is now being offered $6,000 by dealers. That's a devastating financial loss for families who bought these vehicles new just a few years ago. And here's what makes this situation worse. Nissan's buyback program is limited and doesn't cover all affected owners. The program prioritizes vehicles with documented transmission failures or multiple repair attempts. If your transmission hasn't failed yet, you don't qualify for buyback. You're stuck waiting for it to fail while watching the vehicle's value disappear. Many are stuck with vehicles they can't drive reliably, can't sell, and won't be able to register starting in 2026. SUV1 pre-2020 large SUVs without advanced safety features. And now we arrive at the ban that affects more vehicles than all the others combined. Any SUV model year 2019 or older that lacks mandatory advanced safety features is being phased out under 2026 regulations. This includes millions of vehicles from every manufacturer. Here's what the new regulations require. All vehicles must have automatic emergency braking, lane departure warning, blind spot monitoring, and rear cross-traffic alert. These features must be functioning and cannot be disabled permanently. Pre-2020 SUVs generally don't include these systems as standard equipment. And here's the shocking scope of this ban. Popular models affected include 2015-2019 Chevrolet Tahoe and Suburban, 2016-2019 Ford Explorer, 2015-2019 Toyota Highlander, 2015-2019 Jeep Grand Cherokee, 2015-2019 GMC Yukon, and dozens of other high-volume SUVs. We're talking about an estimated 15 to 20 million vehicles that will become illegal to register. The rationale behind this massive ban is compelling from a safety perspective. These advanced safety features prevent thousands of accidents annually. Automatic emergency braking alone reduces rear-end collisions by 50%. Lane departure warning prevents drowsy driving accidents. Blind spot monitoring stops lane change collisions. Regulators argue that making these features mandatory will save hundreds of lives per year, but the economic impact on current owners is devastating. But there's a retrofit option that most owners don't know about. Aftermarket companies are developing kits that add required safety features to older vehicles. These kits include cameras, sensors, and computer systems that provide the mandated safety functions. The problem?
The kits cost $3,000 installed, and not all vehicles are compatible. For a 2017 SUV worth $18,000, spending $4,000 on safety retrofits might make sense. For a 2015 model worth $12,000, the math doesn't work. A 2018 Ford Explorer that would typically sell for $24,000 is now listing for $17,000 with few interested buyers. Everyone knows the registration clock is ticking, but here's the opportunity some savvy buyers are exploiting. If you live in a state that's delaying implementation of the ban or offering retrofit incentives, you can buy these SUVs at deeply discounted prices and retrofit them for less than the cost of a newer vehicle. Several states are offering $1,500 to $2,000 rebates for safety feature retrofits to help residents comply with the new regulations. In states with these programs, the total cost of buying a discounted 2018 SUV and retrofitting it comes to $21,000 to $24,000. A comparable 2021 model with factory safety features costs $32,000 to $36,000. The savings are substantial if you're willing to deal with the retrofit process and you live in a state with favorable policies. But here's the one thing that determines whether this ban destroys your finances or becomes a manageable inconvenience. How quickly you take action matters more than anything else. The owners who will suffer the most financial losses are those who wait until the last minute. As registration deadlines approach, the flood of desperate sellers will drive prices even lower. If you own one of these banned SUVs, your best financial move is acting now while values haven't completely collapsed. The automotive landscape is changing faster than most people realize. These 7 SUV bans represent the beginning of stricter safety and emissions enforcement that will continue affecting older vehicles for years to come. The days of keeping a vehicle indefinitely without meeting current standards are ending. Drop a comment below and tell us, do you own one of these banned SUVs? What's your plan for dealing with the new regulations? Have you already experienced problems with any of these vehicles? Your experience might help other owners facing the same situation. The automotive industry is evolving rapidly, and vehicle owners must adapt to survive financially. These bans are just the beginning of a broader shift towards stricter vehicle standards, safe driving, and smart planning.